Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
Good, Kevin. Good morning to you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So it's one of the things that I've written about, and I am by no means unique in this, but I've certainly carried the torch to some degree over the years, is that supermarket loyalty programs ought to figure out ways to mimic frequent flyer programs. And that airlines did this first. They figured out how to reward best customers. They've clearly changed and evolved over the years, become more sophisticated. Some retailers have done a better job than others, but it was interesting just in the last couple of weeks to see how much backlash Delta got when they changed their frequent flyer program. They changed some of the requirements. They changed their metrics. I know you're a Delta flyer, so which makes you sound like a sled, doesn't it? But I know you're a Delta flyer, and so I'm curious. What exactly did they do, and why are they getting backlash? And do you agree with the backlash?
Oh man, I'm a pretty frequent flyer. I probably log actual miles in a year. I don't know, somewhere maybe around 150,000. And then they have these, so there's a medallion qualifying miles, right? And then once you go over, I think it's 125, you can roll those into the next year.
Right.
And what ended up happening is with COVID, you end up rolling like a few years into each other. So I have like 400,000 MQMs. So
right.
There's probably a bunch of frequent flyers like me that are just loaded up on their miles that can really help them, in future years. And then they also have a dollar criteria that you have to meet. And for Diamond,
that's new, right?
There was always one. So it like the year last year it was $15,000 in a calendar year. This year in 2023, it's $20,000 in a year. So that's legit money,
right?
$1,600 a month or whatever that amounts to. Next year, $35,000.
Wow.
To be at that level. So they've eliminated the mile criteria, so it's only dollars. So $35,000 spent in a year, and you can be the top tier. And then with it, you get a bunch of benefits. You get a bunch of obviously you get the front of the line for upgrades and whatnot. You can also through choice benefits, which is kind of like it's a package of benefits you get awarded at the end of an earning year. You can go in and select things like upgrade coupons, global upgrade coupons. You used to be able to do, I think you still can, a club membership through there, some maybe a $200 voucher, those kinds of things.
Now the dollar spend, does that include if you happen to have a Delta card, a credit card? Does that include the dollar spend on that?
No. So they used to have if you spent a certain amount on the card, you got, and it was pretty reasonable amount for some of the lower tiers. For a Diamond tier, you had to spend $250,000 a year on the credit card.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's 35,000 now. And then the other thing they did is if you have the Delta Reserve Amex card, you used to get for that, $500 annual fee, you got a club membership. Right. And now for that $500 annual fee, in addition to the card, you get 10 vouchers to visit the club.
You fly 11 times. So if you fly 11 times, that one of those times you don't get to get in the club, and I assume that you got the card in part specifically so you would have access to the club.
Yeah, I did. It was basically, roughly the same cost for the membership. The annual fee for the card was roughly the same cost as buying the membership to the club. Now, I could have elected a membership as one of my benefits.
Right.
But if I can go buy it and then I can get some of the other benefits, that's what I decided to do. So, I'm going to, if anybody wants me to come visit, write into Kevin, because I'm going to have to fly a lot more next year than I fly currently. So this year it's 20,000. I'll make it this year, but there's a big difference between 20 and 35.
That's a huge difference. And the thing is it seems to me, and this is the thing that, I think retailers have to be careful of, is if you start to change your program, is it begins to look like a shell game, right? And
Yeah,
it's been interesting, and I guess Delta had got so much blowback from this that they're gonna maybe make some small changes, but it sounds like they're temporary changes based on the fact that they got bad publicity, not because they think they made a mistake.
yeah,
But
it'll be interesting to see where they land with it.
yeah.
But
But they say things like, if everyone is special, then nobody feels special. So we're trying to rebalance the elite ranks. So only really, really special people feel special. And to me, I mean, listen, something I've written a lot over the years is that the most powerful thing that you can have if you're a business and you have customers is to make every customer feel like a regular. You want everybody to
yeah,
feel special.
yeah,
So you have a real, and that doesn't mean that you don't. I totally believe in giving better benefits, better prices to the top
yeah.
10% of your customers, and then the next, and do it by decile. I mean, we had a story just yesterday on Morning News Beat about how Tesco is really doing this in the UK because they need to compete with Aldi and Lidl, the discounters. So they're doubling down on that stuff, and I think that's a really smart idea. But I think but making it so people feel like you're running a shell game on them, I don't think that's showing loyalty to your customers.
Agreed. Yeah, I was just gonna chime in with that if you didn't say that. It really, to me, a loyalty program is absolutely as much, and we've discussed this, and as you just mentioned, it's as much about showing your loyalty to the customer as it is, requiring the customer to behave such that they show loyalty to you.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think, and I do agree that if everyone feels a certain level of special, if everyone feels the most special, then the most special don't get rewarded appropriately. I do get that. It's like, we talk about the trophy generation where everybody gets a participation trophy, right? And so those that excel the most don't really get, you know, acknowledgement over those that don't. And so I think that certainly you want to reward your best customers the most, but everybody that flies, well, first of all, everybody that flies your airline, even if you fly it once a year, you should help that. You should give that customer a great experience that makes them feel special and says, boy, I should fly this airline more. They really take good care of me. And then as you show them loyalty, there should be, some pretty compelling ways for the airline or the supermarket or the grocer or any retailer, to show that loyalty back to their customers with benefits that increase, as that customer's loyalty to you is increasingly shown.
Do you think is part of the thing at play here a certain arrogance in the sense that they sort of feel like, hey, listen, Tom has got $1.5 million, 2 million miles on Delta. He's not going anyplace else because even if we reduce his benefits, if he goes to United, he's starting from scratch. He's never going to be able to get to where he is with us. So do you think there's a certain and because I think this is the kind of thing that a lot of retailers kind of can be guilty of
Right.
is taking their customers for granted. Are they taking you for granted, thinking to themselves, there's no way he's ever going to move? I'm going to do something in all the years that we've ever done innovation conversation I've never done before. The dog was asleep and she got up and she's 14. So she needs to just go out of the room. And I don't argue with 14-year-old dogs.
I'll answer your, that's all
Answer
right.
my question while I move the dog.
I'll answer your question. Okay. I'm talking to nobody. Well, I guess I'm talking to everybody. Hey, we should share some stories about Kevin right now.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back. Sorry, we can't. We'll have a surprise for you when we review the tape later. So I actually have about 2.5 million lifetime miles. I do also have about 1.5 million miles sitting in my account to be used. So to some extent, they're right in that, I'm going to use those miles on Delta, right? I want to use those miles on Delta, and I'm so wired into Delta right now that it will be hard to switch. But United and Alaska both are coming after Delta flyers pretty hard.
Right.
What a great opportunity for them to say, hey, come on over. We'll help you feel special as you come in. And they've even dropped, usually like when they do those status matches, Like you have to perform, right, as a new customer. Like, all right, well then you just have to fly 10,000 miles, in the next 2 months, or something like that. They're not requiring that. So I think there is a little arrogance on their part.
And I think businesses have to be cautious about that, right? If you're not always competing for the customer, if you start to take the customer for granted, that opens the door for somebody, in your case, a United, to come in and say, hey, listen, we fly 85% of our routes are the same. So you need, we'd love to have you be part of our system.
Yeah.
And once you're gone forever. You're never going back. I mean,
No.
so I think that's, again, something that retailers have to think about as they build their programs, is to never take those customers for granted and constantly be figuring out ways to, again, show their loyalty, as opposed to just saying, well, you shop here all the time, you're not going anywhere.
And if you do happen to take a misstep, whether you're a retailer or in this case, if you're Delta,
right,
and you do say, all right, we're going to take another look at this. And when you come back with what you come back with, you better have an explanation for what you're coming back with. And I think that explanation needs to be tailored to the level at which you're explaining, right? So if you're a lower tier, right, you're probably gonna talk about the changes a little bit differently than if you're in one of the mid or even upper tiers, right? And and there's a little bit of a mea culpa of the way that the prior changes were announced,
right.
Then a recognition as to how valuable you are, customer, and then an explanation of here's how it's gonna work going forward. We hope this works for you,
right?
And then if frankly, if it's a change to a place that is a fair departure from where it was, then give them something in transition. Give them some added miles, give them some other incentives in transition to help, with the help incentive to keep them around, but also, maybe it does ease the pain a little bit.
Well, it's the old Jurassic Park lesson, right? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Yeah.
And the other thing is always this, and as I was reading about the Delta thing, it felt to me like there was nobody at the table whose job was basically to say how to talk about this from the customer's point of view.
Yeah, like the old Amazon, the empty chair at the table.
Yeah,
representing the customer and somebody speaking on their behalf.
Somebody needs to be in the room and says, how is the customer? If I'm a customer, how would I react to this?
Yeah.
And it feels like that. And that, again, that's the most important thing. That's, we talk about this all right. If you don't start with the customer, you're almost, the likelihood that you're going to go astray is much greater.
And I think, would it be that hard to do a few focus groups? Right? Like do a few focus groups. If you did 2 or 3 focus groups, probably even 1 or 2 focus groups, maybe even just one at each level.
Right.
And bounced off some of these proposed changes, you would have gotten plenty of feedback from those folks.
Yeah.
To maybe, shape a better initial step with this than they took.
Yeah.
I'm giving Delta, as a customer of theirs, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here and giving them a pass. I hope they come back with something more reasonable. If I have to go from 20,000 spend to 25 or 30 spend,
right.
I hope that at that level, the benefits are significantly better than I'm getting today. And maybe they will be, because maybe I'll have less people to compete with for upgrades and whatnot. But, I'm willing to give them a chance to get this right. For me, going from 20 to 35 is a huge jump. Now, I've got a bunch of friends that, they might travel to Australia once a year, travel to Asia, travel to Europe 3 times, and then they're there. They work for big companies where you're flying up front.
Right.
Right. And those passengers are really important to airlines. So I get it. There should be some extra benefits for them for sure.
Yeah. The interesting challenge for retailers is, and this is where the resistance always comes in, is this whole notion of treating people differently. Like, okay, so I'm a United flyer, I'm gold for life, right? Because I've got 2 million miles. And once I crossed 1 million, gold for life. So I could fly 5 miles next year, and I'm going to keep my status. But I'm okay, and I get treated okay. but I recognize people who are higher above me on the food chain.
Getting on before you, and yeah.
Right? I totally get that. And I got no problem with it. And I think most people feel that way. I mean, it's funny because you find yourself, if you're gold, you know there are people ahead of you online who have more miles, but you also know there are a lot of people behind you who don't have the miles, right?
Yeah. You
So
also think about those poor people that have the more miles, like, what kind of life is that?
well, I just think I don't need to have that. All right. I'm
No,
good.
exactly.
But I do think that, but retailers resist that. And I understand why, but I actually think that there's, there's an opportunity. If you say to people who are, if somebody's coming into your store and they're dropping $200 a week because they got, a family of 4, versus opposed to, I'm an empty nester, so maybe I'm dropping 75 or 80.
Yeah.
I understand that they're going to get better benefits than I do. I get that, but I think they're afraid most people won't.
Yeah. 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 I get it. It's touchy. But maybe there's a formula that, maybe it's a dollars and a frequency thing, or maybe they, based on your buying behavior, they'll recognize that you're an empty nester, that you're not just an occasional, shopper. And, there's some science under that where you could be a little more precise in the types of loyalty, in the ways that you show your loyalty to customers. But yeah, totally get it. I mean,
that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point that retailers could do, as well as, by the way, Delta. Delta could have looked at your account and said, well, he's a 20-year veteran of flying Delta. He's done all these miles over all these years. Maybe the criteria for him ought to be somewhat different from somebody who just started flying Delta last year.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
Yeah.
In the same way that if I'm shopping at a store and I spent, 30 years shopping for a big family, and I spend $200 a week, 48 weeks a year over a period of 20 or 30 years, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
If I'm suddenly an empty nester spending less money, there ought to be some recognition for the fact, and it's all algorithms, right? AI.
Totally. Or benefit that goes to others in your family. I think, on the airline side, like my wife and my kids are all Delta,
right?
Loyalists now because of me. Yeah. And as they grow up, in their lives, and they start, doing more of their own travel, they're doing it on Delta because of me. And they all have some level of status. But, if there's some recognition that, we've fostered this generations of these shoppers, like, could there be some value, conveyed because of that?
And it's another conversation, but I'll bet you AI could do it like that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Chat ChatGPT to do it, and it'll be done. Nice. All right. Well, listen, neither of us are on an airline right now, so that's a good thing. Hey, listen, good to see you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great, Kevin. Take care, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.